Hello everyone and welcome to my Bachelor Nation 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Curse of Oak Island recap. Hinge and crib spikes found in Smith's Cove, but teen must abandon H8 operation. On the Curse of Oak Island this week, the treasure hunting team, led by Rick and Marty Lagina, began by assembling in the war room to talk about the results of the dye tests conducted in last week's episode. After the team pumped between 1.25 million gallons of water stained with fluorescent red dye to points on and around the island, they saw rusty seepage in Smith's Cove that had not been there prior. Later, the rust-colored water trickle tested positive for traces of the red dye. The team believed that this evidence indicates there is something significant underneath the crane pad in the cove, and hope that the finding is consistent with a plugged flood tunnel. Metal detecting expert Gary Drayton was the first to spot the reddish flow and noted, all the rocks turned an orangey-brown color where water flowed over the rocks, and that he had never seen that color in the area before. Because the crane pad is built over the spot that the team now hope to find a convergence point that leads to the money pit, they need to talk to Irving Equipment Limited before any further exploration can take place. Crate Tester concedes that digging underneath the pad would be a pain, but he wants to follow the water flow and get all of the work done that they can this year while the cofferdam is in place. The team agreed that they want to verify if the main flood tunnel has indeed been found, but time is not on their side. They will need additional environmental permits in order to expand their excavation efforts, as well as securing an extension on the present permit if they want to keep the 525-foot cofferdam in place. With summer almost over and their government permits set to expire, Rick and Marty acknowledge that they must move quickly to complete their desired work, including figuring out what numerous unearthed and undocumented structures represent. These include enigmatic L and U-shaped structures, a concrete wall, a slipway, and evidence of a stone box drain. Meanwhile, at Smith's Cove, archaeologist Laird Niven announces that the entire slipway is now exposed. The next step is to disassemble the structure in order to search underneath for clues and artifacts. To date, no one is certain of the intended purpose of the wood configuration. Was the slipway a secret wharf that allowed for the unloading of valuable treasures onto Oak Island? It is hoped that whatever is found underneath the massive structure will yield conclusive answers. Also at Smith's Cove, Jack Begley and Gary find several cryptic items in the spoils. "Oh, that is a beauty," says Gary. "This looks old. This frickin' reminds me of some kind of a spear point." The long, slender metal object he has uncovered looks to him like a projectile of some kind, maybe a spear tip. Could it be related to a similar item Gary found 4 weeks ago? That object turned out to be a Roman pilum, something known to be used by Roman soldiers as far back as the 1st century BC. Whatever this latest find is, Gary thinks it looks like it was made like that on purpose, and Jack labels it a really sweet find. Next, Gary exclaims, "Here we go." Interesting. That looks like an hinge. It's not gold, but it's interesting. When Rick spies the hinge, he declares it cool, and the team members speculate that this substantial piece could be from a door or even a chest. When Rick asks Gary to date it, he says it could be very, very old. It might even be very, very, very old. Next, the team traveled to New Ross to meet with blacksmithing expert Carmen Legg in hopes of pinning down how many varies the hinge merits. Carmen is first shown the slender metal objects that Gary found. He declares them to be crib spikes, items used to make wharves, derricks, and platforms, and dates them to between 1650 to 1800. Could they have been used in the construction of the slipway? Next, Carmen describes the massive hinge as very, very old. Just how old are 2 varies versus 3 varies? Kerman thinks the hinge dates to before 1800, possibly as far back as the early 1600s. Marty is pleased with the news, believing it could be evidence that leads them to the flood tunnels, and Rick is happy because they are making substantial finds. In the Money Pit area, the team meet with Irving Equipment Limited and Vanessa Lucido of Rose Equipment, where 2 weeks ago borehole H8, believed to be above the Money Pit, began to collapse. Although the massive caisson was successfully stabilized with a vibro hammer, they are told that the area is still too unstable and unsafe to continue excavating. The curse of Oak Island has always been a saga of hope, adventure, and the relentless pursuit of answers hidden beneath the island's enigmatic surface. In the latest episode, the Lagina brothers and their determined team found themselves both exhilarated and thwarted as they uncovered new clues and faced unforeseen challenges. #Smith's Cove, a glimpse into the past. The episode begins with the team shifting their focus to Smith's Cove, a site historically rich with tantalizing hints of what might lie beneath Oak Island's surface. As the morning sun glistened on the waters of the cove, the team's spirits were high. They had reason to believe that their latest excavation might reveal artifacts linked to the mysterious flood tunnels believed to protect the Money Pit. The excavator's metal bucket clanged against something solid and metallic. With a mixture of anticipation and caution, the team gathered around. As the bucket rose from the depths, glistening with seawater and sediment, it brought forth several pieces of iron. As they brushed away the mud, their excitement grew. Their hands held hinge and crib spikes, aged and worn, but unmistakably human-made. These artifacts, they speculated, were remnants of the original works to secure and protect something of immense value. The atmosphere was electric with theories and conjecture. The spikes and hinges, corroded by time and salt water, were tangible links to the island's storied past. They suggested the presence of significant wooden structures, perhaps floodgates or supports, designed to safeguard something concealed beneath the island's treacherous landscape. #, the H8 operation, a race against time. Meanwhile, over at the H8 borehole, the mood was tense. The H8 shaft, one of the team's most promising digs, had become a race against time. The deeper they delved, the more precarious the operation became. Water seeped through the walls, and the ground showed signs of instability. Despite the dangers, the team pressed on, driven by the promise of unearthing what previous searchers had only dreamed of. As the drilling continued, the team's resolve was tested. The deeper they went, the more hazardous the conditions became. Equipment failure loomed, and the very real threat of a collapse weighed heavily on everyone. The subterranean world of Oak Island was not giving up its secrets easily. #, a heart-wrenching decision. It was then that Rick Lagina, with a heavy heart, called for a halt to the H8 operation. The safety of the crew was paramount, and the risks had become too great. The decision to abandon the H8 dig was met with a somber silence. It felt like a defeat, a step back after so many strides forward. Yet, in the face of adversity, the Lagina brothers and their team showed resilience. They had faced setbacks before, and each one only fueled their determination. #, piecing together the puzzle. Back at the war room, the team laid out the newly discovered artifacts from Smith's Cove alongside their growing collection of relics and data. The spikes and hinges were scrutinized, and theories abounded. Could these pieces be part of the fabled flood tunnels, designed to protect the Money Pit's treasures from intruders? Or were they remnants of an ancient construction, predating even the known history of the island? As they pored over maps, diagrams, and historical records, the team began to see a pattern emerging. The artifacts were more than just isolated finds. They were pieces of a puzzle that was slowly taking shape. Each discovery, no matter how small, was a step closer to uncovering the truth about Oak Island. Hashtag, 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 a glimmer of hope. Despite the setback at age 8, hope was not lost. The discovery of the hinge and crib spikes had reinvigorated the team. They had tangible evidence that they were on the right track. The spirits of past explorers seemed to whisper encouragement, reminding them that Oak Island's secrets had eluded many, but persistence was key. The episode closed with the team standing on the edge of Smith's Cove, gazing out over the water. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the island. It was a moment of reflection and resolve. They had come far, and though the journey was fraught with challenges, the promise of discovery kept them going.